TIFU by taking my girlfriend on a dream vacation to Barcelona and ending up a solo tourist with a lemon keychain. I should have known the trip was cursed when the confirmation email put my name as Jason, with 2 S's, and insisted on calling my partner Guest 2, like she was an afterthought at her own vacation. I corrected mine. She laughed off hers. Maybe it's a sign I'll become mysterious, she said, twirling my key lanyard like a movie prop. We were booking Barcelona a reset trip, a we deserve this trip, a let's spend money to ignore the obvious trip. Were 3 years in. Me, Jason with 1 S, 32, content strategist who writes ad copy for things that promise to change your life for $19.99, and Leah, 30, a pediatric nurse with a calendar that looks like a Tetris board and a heart that looks like a lost and found box. We were good in the way couples are good when your friends say, "You two are so solid," and you smile, and your stomach quietly eats a paperclip. Barcelona was our city. Neither of us had been, but we decided it belonged to us back when we were still eating dinner on the floor of my studio, because the table hadn't come yet. I showed her photos of gaudy rooftops that looked like dragon spines. She sent me videos of tapas plates like art installations. We fantasized about late dinners, long walks, and a sun so golden it forgave everything. We said it like a spell. Barcelona. Lisp aggressively, be annoying about it. The city would fix us, as if geography cares. Planning became foreplay. We made a list. La Sagrada Familia, non-negotiable, Leia said, and underlined. Park Güell at golden hour. A paella lesson, me. A day trip to Sitges. Gay beach town, your shorts will finally have a purpose, she said. A late-night vermouth crawl in Gracia, both. Magic fountain, I wanted to pretend to be unimpressed. She wanted to be sincerely impressed. We booked an Airbnb in Elborn because everything online said, Gothic Quarter is loud AF unless you are 23 or immortal, and we are neither. The photos looked like a lifestyle blog. Pale wood floors, tiny balcony with 2 chairs that can't possibly be comfortable, a plant that was either an olive tree or something pretending. There was a Smeg kettle in pastel mint. We'll be the kind of people who use a Smeg kettle, I said, as if appliances can change your personality. We bought decent luggage. We split euros between us, so nobody feels like the ATM. We made a Spotify playlist called Catalan Calamity and pretended the name was ironic, not prophecy. 2 weeks before departure, the cracks started talking louder. My work pushed a product launch forward, and my boss began scheduling stand-ups like a religion. Leia picked up extra shifts because one of her coworkers caught strep, and her unit is what happens when you say, healthcare is a mess, and a building raises its hand. We were both tired. Tired, but still joking, still counting down. People kept saying, "You'll have the best time. Barcelona never disappoints." We adopted their certainty because ours was on back order. The night before the flight, we tried to be cute and do matching face masks, which turned into a slapstick scene, where the serum stung her skin and dripped into my eye, and my eye went pink. And then Leah said, "Are you putting the passports in your carry-on or am I?" And I said, "I thought you were." And we did that thin, brittle laugh couples do when the water's already boiling. I packed like a spreadsheet. Rolled tees, 2 linen shirts, light chinos, swim trunks that say, "I respect sunscreen," adapters, a small pharmacy. Leia packed like a story. Pretty dresses, 3 pairs of sandals that rhymed with each other, a polka dot scarf, in case we stumble upon a breezy rooftop, a paperback she'd read 3 pages of every night and lose by day 5. We kissed goodnight and slept badly, because you can't rehearse to sleep in a bed that's empty of tomorrow. Airports make you honest. Our flight left JFK at 7:45 p.m. On a time designed to make you overconfident. We got there early, ate overpriced sushi because why not, and performed the ritual of pretending we're people who thrive under fluorescent lights. Leah's phone buzzed constantly nurses group chat, a cousin trying to borrow money just until Friday, her sister sending TikToks that required commentary. She toggled between us and everyone else with that nurse brain triage that leaves you feeling like 4th in line behind a bleeding stranger. I tried to be cool about it. I failed about it. At the gate, a girl our age took engagement photos with a DSLR, while her fiancé kissed her forehead like it owed him rent. "Imagine planning an engagement shoot at the airport," Leah whispered, smiling. "Imagine planning it all," I said, too quickly. We both pretended I hadn't said it like a point scored in a game we agreed not to play. On the plane, I got the window. She got the aisle. A man who smelled like a well-meaning candle got the middle and immediately removed his shoes in a way that felt personal. Leah and I did movies, as marriage counseling. She chose a weepy drama about sisters who reconcile. I chose an old heist where the twist is men who communicate. Halfway over the Atlantic, while the plane hummed like a giant refrigerator and the world outside was ink, Leah fell asleep with her head tilted toward the aisle, a little line of drool at the corner of her mouth. I loved her then, the way a person loves a 4 a.m. softness, the kind that ignores spreadsheets and calendars, and what we meant to say last week. I reached to brush her hair back. My hand stopped midway, because her phone, resting face up on the tray table, lit with a WhatsApp notification from a name I didn't recognize. Marco, Barcelona. This is where a more dramatic narrator would say, I knew, I didn't. I told myself a story. A nurse friend had a European boyfriend. Our Airbnb host was proactively friendly. She joined a local hiking group 3 hours before landing because she's that person. I looked out the window and watched the moon carve a path in the wing. I put my palm on the glass until it felt cold enough to quiet me. I slept for 27 minutes and woke up older. Landing hit us like a surprise party. Too many people speaking a language your high school didn't do justice to. Humidity that licked your neck. Sunlight that had actual personality. El Prat was a wash of tile and echoes. We breezed through passport control because the universe still has mercy sometimes. Grabbed our bags and navigated the Erebus like champions of reading diagrams. On the ride into the city, I saw balconies with cracked paint and laundry like flags, scooters darting like fish, and graffiti that said, "Au amor," in 4 fonts. Leah squeezed my knee and whispered, "We did it." I wanted to whisper back, "Now what?" Our Airbnb host was a man named Oriel, who wore linen like a calling. He led us up 3 flights of stairs, in a building that had a smell I now recognize as history and damp optimism, opened the door, and performed the handover like a TED Talk. Here's how the induction stove works. Here's the tiny washing machine that eats socks and remorse. Here's the balcony that looks over a narrow street where people will argue at 1 a.m. about ham with operatic sincerity. He recommended a bakery, the croissants are a scandal, and 2 tapas spots, with names that tasted good even before food. He held out the keys on a keychain shaped like a lemon and said, "Welcome. This is a city that likes you more if you linger." We promised to linger like we had anywhere else to be. We did all the right first day things. Left the luggage unzipped like we were people who might flee, splashed water on our faces, put on fresh shirts, and went out into that first walk magic where every corner asks for a photo, and every photo refuses to capture what the air is doing. Elborn was dusty gold and cool shadowed, a lattice of alleyways where scooters prayed and tables leaned into each other. We found the bakery. He wasn't lying about scandal. Leia closed her eyes over a croissant like she just remembered a better universe, and then wandered toward the cathedral where a saxophonist played Besame Mucho to an audience of pigeons and 3 couples who were actually kissing. "We should actually kiss," Leia said. We did. It felt both like a promise and like scoring points against a scoreboard that doesn't exist. We hunted for La Boqueria because every things you must eat list screams in caps about it. The market hit us like a confetti cannon fruit so fluorescent it looked photoshopped. Ham legs hanging like an art installation titled, "This is who we are." Juice stalls, where everything was €1 and tasted like the color it claimed. Old men arguing about anchovies with the gravity of a Supreme Court decision. Leah bought a cone of jamon, and we ate it standing up, greasy and reverent. I bought a paper cup of chorizo, and she stole 3 pieces with a grin that said, "We were still us." We checked off the tourist boxes because checking boxes feels like the same thing as living. Las Ramblas, don't, but we did. A quick look at the Columbus Monument where Leia said, "Wrong direction, buddy." And then finally out to La Barceloneta, where the beach lounged like a dog in a sunbeam, confident, slightly sandy, unbothered by our need to catalog it. We sat on the breakwater with beers we were not technically supposed to have, and watched the water mimic a screensaver. A man in fluorescent shorts jogged by twice. Either he was running laps, or we were stuck in a loop. Leah rested her head on my shoulder. "I could live here," she said. "You and me. We drink vermouth and own too many striped shirts." I tried to picture it. I pictured a small argument about laundry over a beautiful sink. Dinner was 9:45 p.m. because we are aspirational. We went to one of Oriel's spots, the kind that sits you close enough to overhear the next table's entire relationship, and ordered too much because the menu was in Catalan, and my pride insisted I understood 60% of it. Pan con tomate, which turned out to be religion on a plate. Patatas bravas, I cried, I admit it. Gambas al ajillo, tiny peppers that play Russian roulette with your tongue, and a bottle of red that tasted like the color of the tiles in the subway. We did that thing where you pause mid-bite and look at each other with the intoxicated recognition that you will remember this. Leah dabbed olive oil off her lip with the back of her hand and said, "See? We're fine." I nodded because that was the price of the moment. Then her phone buzzed on the table between us, a lazy lit rectangle that made the wine go thinner in my mouth. WhatsApp again. Marco, Barcelona. Mañana quedamos para café, cerca del Born. Dime hora. I read Spanish like a man who has lied on a resume, but I got enough. Meet tomorrow for coffee, Near our neighborhood. Say when. Leia saw me see it. She didn't flinch, just tapped the screen so it went dark and said, "Work thing." Like we had agreed those words could be a string of beads that meant nothing specific. "Your hospital has expanded," I said, light as a paper cut. She rolled her eyes. "A friend of a friend. He's got recommendations. Don't be weird." She speared a potato and chewed it like a point. "You get weird when you're happy," she added, which felt mean and probably true. We paid. We walked home through streets that smelled like stone and cigarettes, and a perfume I wanted to name European Secrecy. On the balcony, we watched a group of teenagers sing badly to a Bluetooth speaker, while an old woman in a window across the way shook her head like a Greek chorus. Leah leaned into me, and I let my chin rest on her hair, and we were that couple again, the one whose friends say, "You two are so solid." And under it all, a small current tugged at my ankle, pulling me a few inches away at a time. Day 2 was Sagrada Familia Day. We had timed tickets, because we are people who read blogs that tell you to be people who have timed tickets. We walked there through example, counting balconies and imagining arguments behind each set of shutters. The church appeared like a hallucination you can't adequately describe to someone who wasn't there. I've seen photos my whole life. None of them prepared me for how the facades look like a fever dream praying. Inside, light poured through stained glass like someone had curated sunlight and installed it at price. Leah cried. Not ugly, just that quiet, private face people make when beauty tells the truth, louder than they can. I watched her wipe tears, and wanted badly to be the person she'd always call when that kind of crying ambushed her. I took a photo of her looking up. The picture made it look like she had a halo. I wanted it to be foreshadowing instead of irony. After, we found a cafe and ordered cortados and tortilla that tasted like some grandmother had forgiven me for everything. Leah's phone buzzed again. "Marco, Barcelona. Cafecito a las 16 in Santa Catarina." She typed back quick. "He's a foodie," she said. "Shut up," she added, before I could even open my mouth. "Am I shutting up? Is that what we do?" I said, and immediately hated the voice I used, which sounded like my dad, when he'd slide a blade into a joke. She exhaled through her nose. "We're not doing this here, Jason. It's coffee. You're welcome to come." "I'll pass," I said, because I am gifted at choosing the option that will make me feel worse. We split for the afternoon. She went for a walk through Santa Catarina Market. I went to the MNAC because museums are where I go when feelings need a tidy place to sit. I wandered past medieval altarpieces that remembered hands that will never touch anything again, and stared out from the steps over Plaza de España, where the avenues erupt out like a choose-your-own-adventure. I texted her a photo of the view with a heart, then immediately put my phone away, because watching dots appear and disappear is a sport I no longer want to play. At 6:10 p.m., she texted back a photo of a cortado, artfully lit, with a caption, "Don't be jealous." Then, "Be back by 7, dinner in Gracia?" I replied, "Sure." Added a thumbs up, deleted it, wrote, "Can't wait." Sent it. Realized I'd become the kind of person who edits their personality. Grazia charmed us the way small squares with fairy lights and loud children and older men playing cards charm people who like to imagine aging elegantly. We ate bombas at a place with exactly 4 items and a line that promised we weren't idiots. A guitarist busked Wonderwall, and I promised not to be American about it. Leah kissed my cheek. "I told you," she said. "This city loves us." And maybe for 5 minutes it did. Then, as if bored with our delusion, the city sent a pickup truck through the plaza at 11:45 to collect recycling, and the crashing bottle sounded like a metaphor throwing itself off a roof. The first real fight happened on day 3, a Wednesday that woke up cloudy and got moodier. We'd planned Park Güell at sunset. I'd slotted in a paella class at noon because I secretly like itineraries. Leah woke up slow, still in her nightshirt, scrolling something too intently. "Hey," I said, soft. "Class starts at 12, we should—" "I'm tired," she said, not looking up. "Can we skip being people who do things?" "We paid," I said, "and it'll be fun." She put the phone face down. "You're making fun sound like homework." "It's 2 hours," I said, trying for casual. "We'll eat what we cook." She lay back and said, "Maybe you should go. You like strangers pretending to be a family. I'll nap and meet you after." It was a small thing. It was also a small cut that hit a vein. "Are you meeting Marco?" I asked, level as a fuse. She sat up slowly, eyes hooded. "I'm not doing this here." "Where should we do it? The magic fountain?" She laughed once, sharp. "Don't be dramatic, it's coffee." He recommended a vermouth bar. We talked about his grandmother's recipe for tomato bread. He's 72 years old in his soul. I didn't believe her, and I couldn't prove why. We compromised. Red. She won. I went to the class alone, chopped peppers with a retired couple from Minnesota, who asked if I was here with your wife, and smiled like a man with an offstage life. The chef showed us the perfect sakarat and told us never to stir the rice. Trust the process, he said, as if he'd attended our therapy. I texted Leah a photo of the paella, like a child with a crayon drawing. She heart-reacted, then sent a photo of a tiny glass of vermouth beside a sardine tin, and wrote, "You'd love this." We met at Park Güell just before sunset. The sky did that pink-on-blue thing poets steal salaries for. The tiled lizard grinned like it had seen this 10,000 times, and still enjoyed the tourists taking turns pretending to ride it. On the terrace, we watched the city sprawl to the sea. Leah tucked her arm through mine, warm. "I'm sorry I was snippy," she said. "I'm just tired. Work brain is like glitter. It sticks." We kissed. We meant it. The heat between us felt earned. For 10 minutes I forgot the name Marco. Then her phone buzzed. She checked it. So fast, a muscle memory with her eyebrows doing that small lift that means funny, not family. "Everything okay?" I said, because I insist on rehearsing the worst lines. "Yeah," she said, pocketing it. "Tasha sent a meme." I decided to believe her because the alternative would rot the night. We walked down through the park in that gloaming light that makes even trash look cinematic. Outside, a man sold beers from a cooler for €1. I bought 2 and didn't think about my stomach. We stood on a corner and drank warm beer from cold cans and talked about the children Leah had cared for this year, the way a 6-year-old had complimented her nail polish before barfing into a pink bucket he called his cozy, the way a teenager had asked if pain made time slower, and she had said yes and no, because she's a person who answers honestly, even when lying would be kinder. I loved her then, wanted the city to notarize it. We got lost on the way back and didn't mind. That's not a metaphor, just us wandering through streets that look like secrets and finding a small square where a man fed a stray cat that didn't trust him yet. Leah took a photo for later. We found a bar with 3 stools and a bartender who made us each a vermouth with orange and ice and a green olive that I'm still thinking about. We were happy. It felt real, which is the most dangerous feeling. Day 4 was meant to be beach and do nothing. We packed towels, sunscreen, and books we'd pretend to read. Leah wore a red one-piece that made me say, "Wow," out loud like a sitcom husband. On the sand at San Sebastian, I fell asleep with my hat over my face because the heat pressed down like a hand. When I woke, Leah wasn't there. Her towel sat like a body outline. Her bag was gone. If this were the movie people think their lives are, now would be where you cut to me, sprinting in slow motion and a swelling score. In real life, I sat up stupidly slowly, looked toward the water. Not there. Looked toward the promenade. There, walking, fast, phone in hand. She was smiling the way you smile at someone who tells a joke you've rehearsed. She reached the steps, looked around for me, spotted me watching. The smile broke into something smaller. She waved, too casual. Walked back like nothing had been stolen from the day. "Ran to the bathroom," she said. "Phone call from Tasha. She's planning a bachelorette thing that will get someone arrested." Her hair was damp at the ends. She smelled like ocean and white wine. I nodded. My stomach did a quiet flip, which I told myself was the beer. We swam. We ate papas at a chiringuito and pretended the waiter didn't judge our Spanish. We took a selfie where my smile looked like a man trying to sell you a timeshare in his own anxiety. We went back to the apartment, pinked and salty, and fell on the bed with that heavy, sun-stoned exhaustion that makes people either nap or confess. We did the first. The confession would wait. That night was the blow-up's prelude. Dinner in El Raval, at a place recommended by Marco the text, though Leah swore she'd found it from a blog. The food was ridiculous. Anchovies that tasted like you'd never been wrong, squid that made you evangelical. We walked out under laundry that looked like flags surrendering. Leah's phone buzzed again. She finally turned it off with a flourish, as if that fixed anything. Back at the apartment, she showered, singing under her breath. Fleetwood Mac, because the universe loves on the nose. Her phone, forgotten on the bed, lit up. I didn't mean to look. Looking is a reflex for people who've spent too much time looking away. The preview said, "Marco, Barcelona. Mañana te enseño mi sitio favorito. ¿Solos? Tomorrow, I'll show you my favorite spot." Alone? I didn't open it. I didn't need to. I stared at the language of it. The question mark at the end that tasted like a dare, and a door creaking open. The shower stopped. I placed her phone face down on the bedside table like a waiter returning a dish. She walked out in a towel, skin flushed and damp, smelling like fig and steam. "Your turn," she said, swiping her hair back. She looked at me looking at her. The air pushed down. "What?" she asked. "Who's Marco?" I said, calm as a man offering you a choice of knives. She held my gaze. For a second I thought she'd lie. Then she sighed, deeply, like a person blowing dust off an old story. "A bartender," she said. "He's just friendly. He likes showing people his city." "People, or you?" "People," she said, but softer. Then, "It's harmless." "Is it?" "Jason, can we not set fire to tonight? So that we can set fire to tomorrow?" Stop. I went to the shower, let the water hit so hot it bordered on punitive. Stood there, watching it run to the drain, imagining porcelain as a weirder confessional. When I came out, Leah was in bed, turned away, the curve of her spine like a parenthesis. I slid in and lay on my back. We didn't touch. Barcelona was loud outside, Vespas like angry hairdryers, voices rising and falling like the sea. The lemon keychain clicked against the door, as if someone had just come in. No one had. Morning brought the fight. Formal, gentle at first, like people negotiating a treaty while sharpening swords under the table. Coffee first. We sat at the tiny table, the smeg kettle like a prop in a life we couldn't play convincingly. I don't care if he exists, I started, which is always a lie. I care if you're honest about why. She stared into her mug like honesty was steeping. I like talking to someone who isn't you, she said, finally, and I flinched, but she wasn't done. Not because you're not enough, because I'm not enough. I don't know how to be in a trip with you and not be measured. I feel like I'm under review. I'm not reviewing you, I said, hurt turning my voice bright. I'm trying so hard to be fun I can feel my pancreas sweating. She half smiled at that. We are idiots, in love with each other's stupid metaphors. He's nothing, she said. He's a shiny coin. You're the wallet. It was a bad metaphor, but I knew what she meant. I'm the structure. He's the relief. The analogy made me feel like furniture you pay off over time. Do you want to see him alone? I asked, and I swear I wasn't trying to set her up. She took a long time answering. Yes, she said. Because I want to remember what it's like to be a person who isn't only in relation to you. And then I want to come back and be with you. I wanted to slam the cup down. I wanted to say the thing that would end us quickly, so I didn't have to live in this slow question. Instead, I said, okay. And I meant it. And I hated that I meant it. Because the alternative would have been a fight that ruins a day. And we came to Barcelona to ruin days more poetically. We split the day. She went to the favorite spot. I went for a run along the beach like a cliché, bleaching his insides with salt. I watched the surfers at Barcelona ride waves that didn't want to be ridden, and thought about control, about how miserable it makes people who love certainty when the ocean politely ignores them. A kid on a scooter cut me off and I stopped to let him pass, and he looked up and said, "Pardon." With such sincerity I wanted to adopt him and raise him to be kinder than I am. At 4:20 p.m., Leah texted, "Back by 6. Dinner at Bournemouth?" I texted, "Sure," and put my phone in airplane mode so I couldn't check it every 2 minutes, like a man shaking a magic 8-ball. Dinner at Bournemouth was the beginning of the end. Packed room, tables crowded enough to share breath, waiters moving like choreography. We got a small standing spot by the window, half leaning, half clinging, and ordered anchovies, croquetas, a plate of something that was either mushrooms or more anchovies. We clinked vermouth like it was medicine. Leia was bubbling, bright, telling me about a small roof deck near Santa Maria del Mar, where 3 older men debated politics while a cat supervised. I could draw a map of the arguments, she said, eyes flashing. I recognized her, the version that lights a room and also leaves me standing in a doorway holding a coat. My jealousy did something ugly then, the kind where your face smiles and your voice asks booby-trap questions. "What's his favorite spot?" I asked, casual as poison. She took the bait because both of us were tired of mercy. "A bar in Poblenou," she said. "Vintage vinyl. He knows the owner." She tried to add, "You'd like it," as a bandage. It didn't stick. "Is he hot?" I said, and hated myself even as I aimed the sentence. She looked at me like she'd just found out the doctor is a robot. "Jason," she said, "do you want me to punish you with the truth, or soothe you with a lie?" "Neither," I said. And then, both. She tilted her head. "He's charming. He has a city tour in a leather jacket." She held my eyes. "He's not you." And then, too quietly to be a weapon, but sharp enough to draw blood. "Sometimes that's the point." I set the glass down with such control I should get an award. The room was loud. Our silence was louder. The waiter slid a plate between us. We did the 3 bites truce. She put her hand on mine. "We are not breaking up in Barcelona," she said. "Not as a spell, but like a nurse setting a bone. We will talk when we go home. We promised each other this trip was a stay of execution." I nodded. Because who am I, if not a man who can perform civility, while something inside him chews drywall? We paid. Walked out. The air smelled like orange peel, and cigarettes, and someone's cologne. We turned down our street. A couple in front of us walked hand in hand. A kid bounced a ball. A man argued into his phone like he had to win quickly before the battery died. Our building's door was propped open. Our lemon keychain hung from Oriel's hook. In the stairwell, Leah let me go up first. On the landing, a shape moved in front of our door. A man turned away, chatting into his phone in quick Spanish. Tall. Leather jacket. Because the universe is not subtle when it wants to mock you. Leah's step faltered. He turned at our footsteps, smiled at Leah, not me, and said, "Hola chica," before stopping because he is not stupid and can read a room like a menu. Leah said his name, Marco, like a word she shouldn't say near fire. He lifted both hands in a universal, "I come in peace," and then did the worst thing. He looked at me and smiled like we were all in on a joke. "I was nearby," he said to me, to Leah, to the air. "I wanted to recommend a place for tomorrow. I should have texted." "You did," I said, voice quiet enough to be dangerous. "A lot." He nodded once, approval of my grasp of facts. Leah moved between us without touching either of us, which is a skill I didn't know she had. "We should go inside," she said. I unlocked the door because keys still do their jobs, even when no one else does. Inside, the plant on the shelf looked judgmental. The Smeg kettle glinted like a cop car in a rearview mirror. Out on the balcony, teenagers sang off-key again. The old woman watched. Leah didn't speak. I didn't either. In the quiet, my phone buzzed with a text. Noah, my best friend back home. "Send photos. Is Barcelona saving your love like the travel blogs promised?" I stared at it long enough that the screen went dark. Leah picked up her phone and set it down again like a hot stone. On the street below, a motorcycle revved and faded. I went to the sink, ran the tap, stared at the water so I wouldn't stare at her. My throat hurt the way it hurts right before you cry. That tight burning pressure like you swallowed a small sun. "Jason," she said, finally, voice frayed. "Please." "Please what?" I said, and when I turned, I saw not just Leah, who had just possibly cheated, or maybe not, but Leah, who sat with dying kids and held parents who didn't want to be held. Leah, who loves a city like a person and loved like a city. Leah, who is allowed to be bored with me, and also an idiot for wanting something shiny. I saw the whole person and still wanted to ask the small, graceless question. "Did you kiss him?" She looked at me like a person taught not to lie unless it buys time. Then she nodded. Once. Not a story. Not a plea. A fact. I thought I would explode. Instead, I felt weirdly calm, like the body does during a car crash. My hands were steady. My voice was the one I use when a delivery driver calls from the wrong entrance. "Okay," I said. "Okay." "I'm sorry," she said. And the way she said it made me believe she meant it. And also that she would mean it again next week if given the chance. "I need a walk," I said. Picked up the lemon keys, left the apartment without the dramatic slam that movies teach you. The old woman across the way watched me go. The teenagers had switched to a new song. I stepped into the street, the humidity like a damp hand on my neck, and started walking without choosing a direction, as if the city could decide what happens to me. Elborn at night is a maze for people who want to be lost without admitting it. I passed a closed vintage shop where a mannequin wore a tuxedo that deserved a scandal. A bar with 2 stools and one man reading a newspaper like it was sport. A tiny grocery with oranges piled like a thesis on circles. I walked past Palau de la Música and stopped because the building looks like music threw itself at a wall and stuck. I sat on the steps and watched tourists try to take photos without the streetlight in the frame. A stray dog trotted by with purpose, as if late for his own story. I thought about love like a city you moved to because you liked a postcard. I thought about Leah kissing a man whose name tastes like the echo in a pool. I thought about the paella chef telling us not to stir. I thought about every fight we didn't have because we were polite. About every apology delivered as a joke. About every time I swallowed the question and it sat there, growing teeth. A text came in. "Leah, please come back." Another. "We'll talk." A third. "I'm so sorry. I'm scared." The last one stopped me because it sounded like the most honest one. Scared of what? Of losing me? Of not wanting me enough to keep me? Of wanting 2 people at once? Of wanting to be a person she didn't hurt and a person she didn't bore? Of being 30 and finding out the life you built has a leak? I walked back slowly, like someone returning to a building they know is on fire, but also know where the exits are. At our door, the lemon keychain looked absurdly cheerful. Inside, Leah sat at the table, hands around a mug like it could tell her a future. We stared at each other with that intense attention you reserve for the person you're about to forgive or leave. "We don't have to decide tonight," she said. "We can sleep and decide in the morning and still go to Montjuic like functional people." I laughed. It surprised both of us. "We are not functional people," I said. Then, softer. "I wish we were." We went to bed because the body demands its clownish routines, even when the soul is drafting closing arguments. We lay facing opposite walls. Her breathing eventually steadied. Mine staged a protest. Outside, a siren wailed and then lost interest. I stared into the dark and made a list of small, stupid things I love about her. The way she eats strawberries with a fork, her hatred of paper napkins that feel like sandpaper, the way she narrates other people's dogs as if cast in a reality show, The way she says, we should have sent a poet after any minor beauty, as if Sagan licensed the phrase to her personally. I cried once, inelegantly, and wiped it with a sheet that was too nice for that. Mourning did not fix us. But it brought a plan, because plans are the aspirin of people like me. We would go to Montjuic. We would walk the gardens and pretend the city was our therapist with good shoes. We would eat something and not say the words that would make the day uninhabitable. We would postpone the execution, because it turns out you can get very good at that with practice. We took the funicular, and then the cable car, hanging over the city in a glass bubble like optimism. The harbor spread out, cranes like insect legs, ships like monoliths, the city blocky and beautiful, the sea smirking. Leah took a photo of our shoes. I took one of the city, as if it were a person, and I owed it a portrait. At the top, the castle pretended it never hurt anyone. The wind did us the favor of making noise so we didn't have to. We walked the paths. We stood by a railing and watched a plane make its slow, obedient arc toward El Prat. A kid in a Messi jersey kicked a ball too hard. His dad laughed. The ball hit a tourist who apologized to the ball. Leah slipped her hand into mine. I let it stay. I didn't sleep, she said, eyes on the ships. Me neither, I said. I don't know what I'm doing. Me neither. I don't want to lose you. I don't want to be kept. We both nodded like people who have been perfectly clear and absolutely opaque. On the way down, we didn't talk. We ate stale sandwiches from a kiosk because neither of us deserved better. Back in El Born, a light drizzle started, the kind that thinks it's charming. We ducked into Santa Maria del Mar, sat in the hush, watched candles do their ancient job. An older woman prayed beside us intensely, like a negotiation. Leah closed her eyes. I didn't pray, but I sent a small, sarcastic note to whatever there is. Make it obvious, or make me braver. When we stepped back into the street, my phone buzzed. A bank notification. Then another. Leah looked at her phone too. A message popped up that I caught by accident. Marco. Te espero en el sitio de ayer. 7? I didn't say anything. She didn't either. The drizzle decided to become real rain. We ran, laughed because running in the rain is legally funny, reached our building soaked, and banged the lemon key against the door like we were kids breaking curfew. Inside, we stripped off damp clothes and hung them on the radiators like flags of surrender. The kettle boiled itself into a huff. Leah made tea the way she does when she wants to heal a wound with a hot leaf. We sat across from each other like diplomats. I told him I can't today, she said. That's not the sentence that solves this, I said. And I said it gently because I am capable of gentleness, even when my insides are shards. I know, she said. Then, I don't know how to not be curious about other versions of myself. I nodded. Me neither, I said, and watched her face study mine for a lie. But I know how to be loyal to this version. She closed her eyes. I'm sorry, she said again. And I believed her again. And also I didn't. And the fact that both could be true at once made me wish for a simpler brain. We tried a truce. We always do. We decided to spend the afternoon apart, me to Palau Güell, her to just walk. We'd meet for dinner like people in a movie about people who aren't us. It was a plan, which is sometimes better than love. I left the apartment and turned right. She left a little later and turned left. We moved in opposite directions like choreography. Barcelona hummed and didn't care. Here is where I tell you about the shocking discovery, because you've been very patient, and I am not a sadist. It didn't happen dramatically. There were no slammed doors, no screaming in the street. It happened the way most detonations do in real life, quietly, and in an inbox. After Palau Güell, which looks like a whale church made by a very rich maximalist with ADHD, I ducked into a cafe to escape another petty rain and ordered an Americano because I suffer abroad by refusing to do as locals do. I checked my email to avoid refreshing Leah's texts. A message sat there from Airbnb with the subject, "Your upcoming check-in details with host, Marco." I stared at it, brain unable to parse irony at that altitude. I opened it. It was a reservation confirmation. Different apartment. 4 nights. Poblano. The check-in date, tomorrow. The guest name, Leah Daniels. The host, Marco. The note from host. Te dejo las llaves en el bar de la esquina. No te preocupes, todo discreto. I'll leave the keys at the corner bar. Don't worry, discreet. The Americano went cold. My hands didn't shake. A small piece of me, some old, ugly animal said, "Of course." Another piece, a dumber, hopeful animal said, "Maybe it's for a friend." But the truth sat in the email, tidy and patient. Logistics rarely lie. The cafe clattered. A kid dropped a spoon and cried like someone had ripped time. I forwarded the email to myself because part of me didn't trust my own eyes. My phone lit with Leah's text at that exact second. Cruel because the universe has an MFA in timing. Meet at 8? Found a place with the best fidua. I replied, "Sure." Then added, "We need to talk first." Then deleted the second sentence, then sent nothing else. Then opened the Airbnb email again, as if the words might rearrange themselves into a mercy. I walked back slowly, not because I was noble, but because I wanted the city to perform one miraculous sign to make this less humiliating. It didn't. It gave me a man peeing discreetly against a wall, a couple sharing a cigarette they both wanted to quit, a woman drafting a voice note that sounded like a breakup or a poem or both, and a dog that decided to love me for 6 seconds. Barcelona, compassionate, but unsentimental. Upstairs, the lemon key felt heavy. Inside, Leah was on the balcony, looking at the street like a person in a song. She smiled when she saw me, then saw my face, and didn't smile. "What?" she asked. I held up my phone. "Why is this in my email?" She didn't come closer. Didn't pretend to not understand. She just closed her eyes once, opened them, and said quietly, "I booked a place. I was going to tell you tonight." Then, "It's not what you think." The most unintentionally funny sentence in the human language. "What do I think?" I asked, calmly, because sometimes cruelty wears a nice suit. "That you booked a 4-night stay, starting tomorrow, in an apartment hosted by the guy who kissed you, miles from this bed we rented together, because the Fidua in Poblenou is that good." She winced. "I needed a place to think," she said. "He has a listing. It's separate. I was going to go alone." "With his keys in a bar and his name on the reservation," I said. "So separate." "It's just a place," she said, voice thin. "It's not about him." "It's never about them," I said, gently, and watched her flinch because I'd said the quiet part kindly. We stood there, the kettle boiling itself into a tantrum behind us, and weighed everything. The years, the jokes, the dog we said we'd adopt one day, the ghost of a kid we hadn't named yet, the Brussels sprout recipe we finally perfected, the list of TV shows we promised to watch together, the emails that don't lie. "Say the thing," she whispered. "Please." "Which thing?" I said. "The thing that ends it," she said. "I can't be the one who breaks us. I already did." I stared at her mouth, at the small white scar on her top lip from when she fell off her bike at 11, and cried. And her dad said, "Don't make a scene." And she learned to make scenes inside herself instead. I wanted to hold her. I wanted to put a chair through the smeg. I wanted to be a better person than I am. "We're done," I said. The words tasted like nickels. She nodded, very slowly, like a person drinking something bitter, because a doctor said it would help. We didn't scream. We didn't break plates. We didn't do anything cinematic. We did logistics. It turns out love ends like a meeting. She'd move to the Poblenou place tomorrow. I'd keep the Airbnb until the end of the booking. We'd fly home on the same date, but not together. We'd tell our friends separate versions that share a backbone. She'd tell her sister. I'd tell Noah. We'd divide the euros. We'd pretend to sleep tonight. That night, we lay in the same bed, your classic conjoined solitude. At 2 a.m., Leah started crying silently, shoulders shaking. I stared at the ceiling and counted the cracks and thought about Gaudi and how he made beauty out of wounds. I am not Gaudi. I am a man in an Airbnb wishing the plant would tell me what happens after. Morning came, and Barcelona did its unapologetic sunshine. Leah packed a small bag. She put on the red one-piece under a dress like a woman still open to joy, and walked around, putting her hands on objects like they were relics. She kissed me on the cheek, then the forehead, then the mouth, lightly. "I love you," she said, and I believe she did, in a past tense that refuses grammar. "Be safe," I said, like a Midwestern dad in a movie. After she left, I stood in the doorway looking at the lemon keychain and shook with a laugh that wasn't a laugh. I made coffee. It was too strong. I carried the mug to the balcony and watched a kid ride a scooter down the street like a tiny bullet of purpose. Below, a man shouted to a friend. Above, laundry flapped like applause. My phone buzzed. "Noah, how's paradise?" I typed and deleted "on fire" 3 times, then wrote, "We're not us anymore." He called immediately. I didn't answer. I couldn't synthesize the city into a phone call. I went out, because staying in a room with a Leah-shaped absence is dangerous. I walked to the Arc de Triomphe, stood under it like a man trying to feel small on purpose, and failed. I ate a sandwich in a park, without tasting it. I wandered into a bookstore and bought a slim book of poems in Catalan I can't read, because self-harm is sometimes literary. I sat on a bench and watched 2 teenagers kiss with the shameless intensity of people who don't yet know how marriage paperwork works. I felt old, and also new. When I finally returned, the apartment smelled like her perfume anyway. On the table sat a note on torn graph paper. "I'm sorry. I will always love who we were. Please go to the roof deck near Santa Catarina at sunset. Not with me. Just go." No signature. just the slanted L she uses when she's writing quickly and telling the truth. I went. Because I'm obedient to ghost wishes. The roof deck was small, a few chairs, some pots of rosemary doing their best. 3 older men argued politics, laughing and clapping each other's shoulders. A cat supervised. The sky did the exact shade of orange Leah loves. I stood there and felt nothing and everything. I stayed until it went dark. I walked back in streets that felt less like mine. I slept badly and dreamed of tiled lizards. If you want the ending, I don't have it yet. I have another 5 days in Barcelona, a flight home booked next Tuesday, and a list of places we were going to see together that I now have to either avoid or claim. I have an inbox with the Airbnb confirmation for a room she'll sleep in tonight that has a reedy plant and a blue chair. I have a city that is as beautiful as promised and as incapable of saving us as I should have known. I have a lemon key that lets me into the wrong apartment. And I have the truth, which arrived like an email, plain and efficient. She didn't just find a city. She found a possibility she needed to touch. Maybe I did too. Or maybe I thought I could smuggle mine home if I just kept my mouth shut and my itinerary full. Tomorrow, I'll go to Casa Batlló and pretend to care about bones and facades. I'll eat tomato bread with too much tomato, like a man learning a lesson badly. I'll probably text Leah something stupid and kind. I'll call Noah and he'll say, "Come home, man." And I'll say, "I'm trying." I'll stand by the sea and let it be smarter than me. The morning after Leah left for Poblenou, I learned that Barcelona is excellent at pretending nothing happened to you personally. I did the tourist loop alone like a ghost on rails. Casa Batlló, bones and blues, coffee in a square where a mime scared a toddler into a personality, and a long walk along the beach that felt like punishment disguised as health. I didn't text Leah, but I checked my phone as if texts could arrive telepathically. They didn't. Noah called. I answered. He said, "Come home." I said, "After Tuesday." He sighed the way friends sigh when they know you need the last bruise to believe the lesson. That night, I went to a tiny bodega in Elborn and bought a paper-wrapped bocadillo, a beer, and a pear. The owner called me guapo mechanically, which felt like prayer. I ate on the balcony and listened to the teenagers try Bowie. They were terrible. I loved them for trying. On day 2, I did what Leah asked. I went back to the roof by Santa Catarina at sunset. Same 3 old men arguing, same cat, same orange sky. I stood there feeling like a placeholder. I understood then. Grief is a room you walk into 5 minutes too early, so you stand around pretending you're here on purpose. I avoided Poblenou. Then, on day 3, the city decided my avoidance was cute. I went to a vinyl bar in Poblenou because I like self-harm with atmosphere. It was early, half empty. Cement walls, a bar lined with records, a bartender with a forearm tattoo of a trumpet. I took a stool. I ordered a vermouth and stared at a poster for a jazz night that promised a future I didn't have. They walked in like they belonged. Leah in a blue dress I bought her for a wedding last summer, and Marco in the leather jacket that might legally be part of his torso. She saw me first. Her face did the thing faces do when the brain needs 10 seconds and only gets 2. Marco clocked me a beat later and gave me the exact smile I'd imagined at 3 a.m. Friendly, unbothered, like we were sharing custody of the evening. "Hi," Leah said. No lies left, no cover story. Just a vowel. "Hi," I said. I nodded at Marco. "You must be the city." He had the decency to look embarrassed. "Jason," he said, my name careful in his mouth. We should not," I said. "I'm leaving you both your soundtrack." I put a 20 on the bar I hadn't opened a tab at and stood. Leah grabbed my hand. "Please, talk to me." Her eyes were wet. She looked like my person again, which is the meanest trick memory plays. "Talk to me at home," I said. "Not in a bar he knows the owner of." "Jason," Marco said softly. "I didn't—" "Brother," I cut in, because I am not above rudeness. "You did. It's fine. Seriously. Enjoy your city." I left. On the sidewalk I laughed once, loudly enough that 2 passing teenagers flinched. Then I cried, quietly enough that nobody noticed. Somewhere behind me, a trumpet on the stereo did a sad little flourish, like I'd timed it. Leah texted an hour later. "I'm sorry. Again. Please let me see you tomorrow to talk." I typed no and deleted it. I typed yes and deleted it. I put the phone face down and slept with it across the room like it could gas leak. We met the next afternoon in Ciutadella Park because I demanded daylight and witnesses. Leah brought bottled water and a paper bag of pastries, like a child offering reparations to a bear. We walked under the shade past the fountain that looks like it was built by a committee of gods who couldn't agree on a theme. "I panicked," she said. "I wanted space, and then I filled it. I told myself it wasn't about him." That was a lie. It was about feeling like I was still capable of surprising myself. "You surprised me," I said. "Does that help?" She shook her head. "I never wanted to be this person." Everyone says that right after being that person. We kept it level until a street performer started blasting Careless Whisper, and a flock of parrots screamed at us from the palms, and something inside me snapped. I asked if she'd slept with him. She said no. I believed her, and also didn't. She said she loved me. I believed her, and also didn't. I said she wanted 2 lives, and she said I wanted 1 life with 2 different versions of her. And somewhere in there, a group of tourists took photos, like we were local color. We reached the bandstand. She stopped. I can't do the half-life thing, she said. Not with you. Not with him. Not with me. Then pick, I said. I pick not burning you more, she said quietly. I'm staying in the pub new place until my flight. I'll send money for half this Airbnb. I'll get my stuff at home when you're not there. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know sorry is cheap. A little kid ran past holding a balloon. It slipped. Rose. Everyone watched it drift. I thought about shouting for someone to grab it. Nobody did. We all just watched it go. We hugged, which was the worst idea, and also the only thing that let us walk away. My last 48 hours were uneventful on purpose. I ate tomato bread like penance. I went back to Sagrada Familia alone at dawn and stood outside the fence listening to the city breathe. I bought a small ceramic lizard keychain I'll never use. I texted Noah. Tuesday, 7:45, seat 38A. He replied, I'll be at arrivals. I'll bring a bagel. Leah sent one last message. I'm sorry for turning our city into a story I don't even like. I'll handle my flight. Please don't wait for me at home. I wrote okay because long sentences were dangerous. At El Prat, I watched couples do airport choreography and felt like a ghost of myself. On the plane, a man in the middle seat took his shoes off again, because that's the universe's favorite bit. I put on noise-canceling headphones with nothing playing. Somewhere over the Atlantic, I fell asleep for 20 minutes and dreamed of the lemon keychain turning into a sun and burning the door down. I landed. Noah hugged me in a way that made the jet lag audible. He drove me home. The city looked too sharp. He sat on my couch while I stared at the wall. You didn't lose, he said. You survived. I believed him enough to eat the bagel. Breakups don't end. They just change tense. Leah came by a week later when I was at work and took her things. She left the red one piece by accident. I put it in a paper bag with a note, yours, and texted her to pick it up from Noah's place. It felt kinder that way. I stopped checking WhatsApp for Spanish numbers. I muted our Spotify playlist. I kept the Catalan poetry book. I like not understanding it. I went back to work and wrote bright, convincing copy about a product that promised to simplify mornings. I slept badly, then better, then like a person again. 3 months later, a mutual friend said Leah was moving to a different unit at her hospital for a reset. I hoped her reset involved fewer leather jackets and more honesty, even if the honesty wasn't with me. I still think about Barcelona every day. The tiled lizard, the roof deck cat, the kids singing badly, the lemon keychain. I don't hate the city. It didn't fail us. It revealed us. Sometimes you need a place with too much beauty to make your ugliness obvious. Last week, I booked a flight back for next spring. Alone. Different neighborhood, different keychain. I'm not going to reclaim anything. I'm going, because the first version isn't the only version. I'll sit on a small balcony in the sun and eat a scandalous croissant and send no one a photo.